So welcome everybody. Once again, officially welcoming everybody. This is Eretmis Cyber Chat. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. We do this chat every Friday around 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. We try to keep it, an hour if it's possible. So the goal for this chat is to educate and also create more awareness about cybersecurity jobs and opportunities within the cybersecurity space or information security space or IT in general, right? So this is an open forum. It is free to everybody. Everybody can join, and you are free to chime in the discussion as we are moving forward. So we pick a topic every week, and we will discuss that topic. We kind of sometimes do it a little bit of kind of like a classroom style, for you to have real firsthand, some of the information or some of the things that you might probably have heard of, but you really don't, know exactly what it's about. So what we started off with last week was GRC, and we are going to continue GRC. So GRC, somebody was asking in the chat, stands for governance, risks, and compliance, right? So in business, GRC stands for governance, risks, and compliance. In cybersecurity, it is also the same thing, because cybersecurity now is at the forefront of business. I don't think any business today can do without cybersecurity or information security, right? So GRC plays a critical role in cybersecurity as well, right? So whilst we're waiting for others to join, I'll address a question in here shortly, and then we will jump into what we are going to do today. Right, so somebody's asking, GRC and PCI are both compliance jobs. Can one function as an SME, subject matter expert, on both subjects, or you need to totally separate? You need like total separate skills to become a GRC specialist. Well, so GRC is a big umbrella under which PCI-DSS and all these other frameworks will fall under, right? So GRC and PCI, they are not two separate things. PCI-DSS falls under the GRC, the compliance side of GRC, right? So if you say, do you need different skill sets to work in GRC and to work in PCI, I think you have to know the difference between the two, or like the similarities, or where each of them, are in terms of hierarchy. So GRC covers the compliance side of GRC, covers PCI-DSS, SOC, FESMA, RMF, all that area is under the compliance side of the house. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. So without any more questions, we are going to jump into our conversation from last. And I hope last week was, worth your time. So we are going to continue with what we did last week. So welcome everybody once again. This is Eretmis Academy, and I am going to be your facilitator for today's cyber chat. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. For anybody who is, coming here or joining the family for the first time. I'm a former United States Army captain. I also love to teach. So I've taught in University of Maryland Global Campus, and I also used to teach at Central Texas College. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Inc., a cybersecurity consulting firm based in New York, and we specialize in PCI-DSS audits, where we do everything and anything cybersecurity as well. I'm a QSA, meaning I'm a qualified PCI-DSS auditor or assessor, because when you say auditor, it's kind of, people start to, get that pressure. So PCI calls it an assessor, but you are an auditor. I'm a cybersecurity expert. I love everything cybersecurity, and I also love to teach and share knowledge, right? And it's my goal to help my community, for us to also get onto the cybersecurity side of the house, because most people think you need some special skills, or, IT is way out of their reach. but it is not, right? If you have the right guidance and, like you have somebody who is showing you the path, I think everybody can do it and anybody can do it. Because in cybersecurity, there's something for everybody, right? Regardless of what you've done or your previous background, there is something that is really going to fit into what you've been doing before or what you are currently been doing, okay? So we are going to start off with what we will be discussing today. So please bear with me as we're going along. We'll be letting people in into the meeting. And if you have any questions, please raise your virtual hand and we will give you the floor and you'll be able to chime in and add to our discussion. So today we will still look at GRC, details of GRC. We will look at some of the processes that organizations will go through under the GRC processes. And we'll look at some of the regulations and legislations that falls under the compliance side of GRC and then career opportunities. Okay. So we will start off with GRC again for anybody who wasn't here last week. And also, before I forget, we have a YouTube channel where we post all these recordings. If you go to YouTube and you type in Eretmis Academy, you'll be able to find our channel. We have all our previous chats on there. And it's a really, we have a lot of really good information for anybody who wants to get into the cybersecurity industry, or even if you're in the industry already, I think you're still going to get some really good information because you have to be a lifelong learner, right? A lifelong learner of your craft, right? So there's nothing like too much knowledge, or there's nothing like, you know it all. Nobody knows it all. So at least you get, one or two things on there that is going to help you overall. So, but for anybody else who is aspiring to get into the industry, please go there. You get a lot of information for free, right? And you can also subscribe and share, spread the word, and have other people, who are interested in getting into cybersecurity to also get their hands on such information. So we will start with GRC. GRC, details of GRC. We talked about the definition and how GRC came about last week. This week, for anybody who is not familiar with GRC, GRC simply stands for governance, risks, and compliance, right? And we discussed that in organizations, on the business side, organizations have a whole bucket list of things that they have to do to stay profitable, to stay on the good side of law. And also in today's day and age, they also have to do everything right in terms of security and IT security. That way they don't get breached. Okay, so that is the genesis of GRC. So GRC covers governance, risks, and compliance within the organization. The governance aspect of GRC gives a high overview or sets the tone for when we are dealing specifically just with cybersecurity or information security. Governance sets the tone because it's at the governance level that we come up with policies, procedures on how we are going to go about information security or cybersecurity within the organization. Also, for all other aspects of the organization, governance sets the tone because that is where everything begins, right? So it is at the governance stage that we plan on how we are going to perform risks and also to perform compliance, right? And risk management within every and any organization, there's always going to be risks. So financial risks, security, physical security, cyber security or information security, and all sorts of, natural disasters. There are all these forms of risks. How do we tackle these risks? How do we mitigate it? That way, the effect of such risks is not really going to, dissolve the company, or it's not going to make the company go under. Okay, so please, you can go ahead and keep the questions coming in the chat. We will look at it once we've gone through the presentation. So risks, specifically directing it to the cyber side, risk management is controlling the elements within risks in cybersecurity. That is your vulnerabilities and your threats. So you can control threats, but you can control your vulnerabilities. So when we do risk management, that is what we are doing. The goal of risk management is to reduce risks to a minimum to the point that if risks is supposed to occur, it's not going to have a huge impact on the organization. So there is nothing like zero risks. You cannot totally eliminate risks. There's always going to be some risks left, but the goal is to reduce it to, a level that is acceptable by the organization. And for every organization, every organization is unique. So there has to risks, management has to be tailored to the organization, right? And as part of the governance risks compliance, the risks aspect is looking at how we'll be able to reduce not just business risks, but also IT risks, or specifically information security risks. Okay, and the compliance aspect of it, with compliance, organizations have to stay in adherence to certain regulations and laws, right? So some of these regulations and laws can be made by the government. So they are there's no option, you have to follow it, or the owners of the company can go to jail. Some are industry standards that you have to follow per the industry, right? We explained that, or we talked about that last week. An example of these are like regulations like HIPAA, right? So HIPAA is an act. In cybersecurity, we call it a framework, right? But it's a law passed by the government. Any company that works within the health industry has to stay in compliance with HIPAA. And how do we know that they are in compliance or they are not in compliance? Every year or every 12 months, your company has to be assessed by a qualified HIPAA assessor or auditor, right? So they will come in, do an assessment on your IT infrastructure to make sure that you are following the cybersecurity law or the cybersecurity regulation put in place by the government called HIPAA, right? And what HIPAA does is it ensures that the health information of patients are kept, in a secured way. That way hackers don't get their hands on, right? So if you go through the whole entire audit, HIPAA audit, and you pass, you are good. If you don't pass, there are repercussions for that, right? And organizations don't want to go that route, right? So you want to pass. And because compliance is a very critical aspect of every company, it is very high visibility. It has very high visibility within the organization, right? An example, PCI-DSS is also one of the frameworks or one of the standards when it comes to compliance. And that affects any company that accepts credit card or debit card, that transmits, stores, and processes the credit card or debit card, directly by themselves. Or even if it's done by a third party, they also have the responsibility of making sure the third party stays in compliance with PCI-DSS, right? Now, PCI-DSS is not set by the government, right? So if you don't follow it, you cannot go to jail. But then the card brands who set forth or who came together to form PCI that came with the standard PCI-DSS, they can take your capability of accepting credit card or debit card from you, because it is their credit card and debit card that you are taking, right? So they want to make sure that if you are taking their card, you are keeping it in a secured way. That way attackers or hackers don't get their hands on it, right? So that is the goal for all these compliance frameworks and standards that we have around. And also for companies, on the financial side, there is a whole bucket list of regulations and other laws that they have to follow. All those fall in the Department of Compliance. Okay, so GRC helps us to really, although we will look at it as one big like basket or one big umbrella, but it has all these other components to it in there, right? So when we say GRC, or maybe somebody wants to apply for a GRC job, the job can be within governance, within risks, within compliance, right? And under compliance, there's a whole list of jobs that you can do within there. Under risks, there's a whole list of jobs that you can do there. Under governance, but most often they kind of overlap, right? So there's no clear line that is only for compliance. There's no clear line that is only for risk management. They will all kind of overlap, because everything that is done in the compliance area. So an example, if your organization has to stay in compliance with HIPAA, right? Everything that you are doing in HIPAA also speaks to risk management, and it also speaks to governance, because during that assessment, whoever is doing the assessment, as part of the requirements that you have to meet, the organization has to produce security policies, and they have to produce, some other documentations to prove that the organization is indeed doing what it's supposed to be doing to meet that requirement. So all those, we can go back and forth. If we go down the list of the requirements that you need to prove that you've satisfied those requirements to be able to pass that assessment or to pass your audit, your HIPAA or your PCI-DSS audit, all those will still fall back. Most of the items, you find it in risk management, you find it in governance, right? So these three main elements, they kind of overlap, right? So there's no clear line. There are so many, not necessarily gray lines, but they kind of depend on each other. So now when we look at specifically at governance, these are some of the things that we look at, on the governance side. So corporate control, key policies. So all policies are made under governance. Enterprise risk management, it is under governance, but we're still looking at risk management, regulatory and compliance management. So all these, although we have compliance by itself, but everything that we're going to do, or we are that we want to do in risks and in compliance, they all have to start at the governance level. Because at the governance level, everything is from the top management or the C-suite, right? They are the ones who are going to sit down and make the decisions on, okay, how much money are we going to allocate to this? How much resources? How much personnel do we need? How many people can we employ to do A, B, C, D, right? All of that comes from the top, right? So that is why everything starts at the top in terms of governance, okay? And we talked about the different types of governance last week, in case anybody has forgotten. In organizations, mostly there are three main types of governance. We have the business governance, that is overall governance for the organization. We have the IT governance. We have the security or the cybersecurity or information security governance, right? Now, information security governance and IT governance, they are all, working to help achieve the objectives of the business governance, right? So now IT governance and information security governance or cybersecurity governance, they play a major role in the business governance, because if we don't take cybersecurity or information security seriously and the company gets breached, it affects the entire organization, including their business objectives or their business goals, right? The business goal of an organization is not to be on the news in any bad way, right? For everybody to see that they've been breached, customers' data that they collected has been compromised. So you don't want any of that, because your stocks will go down, there will be fines and lawsuits from, everybody and their mom. So organizations or companies, they set up shop to make money. So they are in business to make money. And anything that is going to, really take the attention from that, they want to handle in a very, good way. That way, it doesn't affect the goal of the business, right? And cybersecurity or information security now has taken center stage, because attackers, they love to, easily attack companies and, get ransoms or steal information that pertains to customers, right? So governance covers everything that we've looked at here. Okay? And also evaluating the performance of the general performance of the company, everything, all that also falls under governance. Right now, when we look at risks, under risks, we are looking at not just IT risks, but financial, operational, brand, and we will look at cybersecurity, obviously, or information security risks, obviously. But for our intent and purposes, for us IT folks or cybersecurity folks, when we talk about GRC, our attention directly shifts to, when we talk about risks, our attention directly shifts to the information security risks or the IT risks, right? But that is being biased, because there are other forms of risks that an organization will face. But mostly the financial risks will be handled by the finance department, or like the financial area of the company. The operational risks will be handled by operations. IT risks and information security risks will be handled by IT or information security folks. Brand and reputation, HR, and probably PRO for the company, they will handle those areas, right? So when we talk about risks, this is what we're looking at in general, right? But for us cybersecurity folks, we will just focus, only on the IT risks. Now, with compliance, compliance simply means we are staying in the good side of regulations and laws that affect or that the company has to stay in compliance with, right? Please give me a minute. All right. So with compliance, very simple way is staying in the good side or on the good side of either industry standards or laws and regulations that are set forth by wherever you find yourself in terms of your jurisdiction, right? So if you are within the United States, certain government cybersecurity or information security laws will apply to you based on the industry that you are operating in, or based on where you are located within the states. An example for data privacy, the United States is really terrible about data privacy, right? There is no single data privacy law or regulation for the whole entire United States. Each state has, some states, have their own. Not every state has it. California has one, is the CCPA. It affects only companies within California, right? So if I'm a software company based in New York and you are a software company based in California, you have to stay in compliance with CCPA, but I don't, right? So that is what I mean. Depending on where you are looking, you might be affected by some of the regulations, and based on where you are, you might not be affected by any also. But when it comes to like industry standards, regardless of where you are, if whatever you are doing in terms of business like touches on what that framework or that standard is pushing, then you have to stay in compliance with it. So for anybody who is aspiring to work in the GRC area, or even if you just want to be a normal cybersecurity professional, right? As part of the assessment that you have to do once you get on the ground in any company is to, if they don't have a GRC department, is to really go down the list of identifying what regulations your company might have to stay in compliance with, right? So if you don't know what regulations your company has to stay in compliance with or what standards, then it means everything that you are doing within the organization is really not going to be what or where it has to be, right? Because if you don't know what regulations you have to be in compliance with, then everything else that you are doing in cybersecurity is probably null and void. Because if you don't meet those requirements in terms of staying in compliance with whatever regulation, PCI-DSS, SOC 2, HIPAA, FESMA, name it. Like if you don't stay within that frame, then your cybersecurity program within the organization needs to be revised, right? That needs to be revised. So compliance simply means staying on the good side of mandatory and non-mandatory regulations and laws or industry standards. And we discussed what mandatory ones are and non-mandatory ones are. So non-mandatory, they are mostly best practices, or they are set forth by industry players that is not mandatory, right? Mandatory ones are specifically set forth by either the government or the state that you are, so either the federal government or the state that you find yourself in. So an example is what I gave, CCPA, you have to stay in compliance with it if you are within California area in terms of data privacy, but you don't have to stay in compliance with it if you are in New York, right? With government regulations, if you are working for the government, as a consultant or as a consulting company, or you're a government agency, you have no option but to stay in compliance with HIPAA, RMF, and all that, right? If you don't work for the government, you are just a company that accepts credit card and debit card, and you store, process, or transmit credit card information or cardholder data, then you have to stay in compliance with PCI-DSS, right? If you don't, you might probably not be able to take credit card or debit cards anymore. If you work within the health industry, so if you are a health insurance company, you are a hospital, you are whatever you are doing within the health industry, you have to stay in compliance with HIPAA. If you don't, there are repercussions, right? So if you're a cybersecurity professional in that company, you don't necessarily have to work under the GRC, and you don't know that your company has to stay in compliance with any of these regulations or rules, then you are wrong, right? So without necessarily working in those areas, you have to identify what regulations you have to stay in compliance with, right? Because they say in law enforcement, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So at the end of 12 months, if you're in charge of a cybersecurity program for your company, you cannot say, oh, but I didn't know we have to stay in compliance with PCI-DSS, right? I mean, good luck telling that to people in charge of that who are going to assess your company to make sure that you are staying in compliance with PCI-DSS, right? So now let's look at the processes that these different areas of GRC, some of the steps that we go through, right? So governance and compliance are almost the same. Risks, not necessarily almost the same. So with governance, we do documentation processes, and also risks, we start game planning for risks at the governance side, and we define documents and controls within the organization, or what controls we want to put in place, assess effectiveness of controls. That is after we've implemented, all these controls. So that is after going through risks and probably compliance, you have to come back and look at the effectiveness of whatever controls you put in place, and then disclosure and also certification of compliance processes. So when you go through a compliance assessment, be it PCI-DSS, HIPAA, name it, after you've done, right, with PCI, there are things that you are going to show your bank or your acquirer if you are a merchant or a service provider. Like, there is a certificate that we are going to give you for you to present to whoever needs to see it, that you met all the requirements and you passed your audit, right? So that is the certificate that we are talking about here. So if you talk about certifications, with PCI, you get your reports on compliance, and then also your AOC, that is attestation of compliance. So that will show, if you show that to anybody who has to know, they will know that, yes, you are in compliance with all the requirements of PCI DSS. HIPAA, same thing. SOC, same thing. All other standards or frameworks, almost same thing. So there has to be something for you to show that you actually passed for that year, right? And every 12 months, you have to do these assessments again, right? And the last portion of governance is to do remediation. If there are any issues, we have to solve those issues and make sure we are good. So that is the steps we go through, or the processes we go through under governance. This is not by any measure all of it. This is the very high level overview of most of it. And under risks, we identify and categorize the risks. We do an assessment of the risks. We try to mitigate the risks, and then we will do a report on the containment of the risks, right? Then, if we want to go really, just strictly RMF or just risk management style, we also do lessons learned, right? And lessons learned will help us to re-strategize our risks later on if we want to go through the entire process again. Right? And with compliance, we go through almost the same list as we did for governance. Okay. So now the question is, who is supposed to be on the GRC team, right? So for most organizations, we wouldn't be able to look at like some of the organizational hierarchies. I think probably that can be a topic for one of the cyber chats, right? Organizational hierarchy, focusing specifically on the cybersecurity or information security side. We will see really at the top who is at the top, and then break it down all the way to the bottom. We can do that. That can be like a whole session. But most organizations, the ones that will have like a big IT team or a big like cybersecurity or information security team, they will have a GRC team, right? And this team specifically focuses on GRC stuff, right? And the other folks will focus on other areas, not necessarily on the GRC side, right? So most organizations will have GRC teams, and who is supposed to be part of this team, or who are some of the where do we pick these team members or these members to form the GRC team? So the list of individuals who are supposed to work under GRC, mostly it will be headed by probably like the director of cybersecurity, or depending on the size of the organization, maybe a cybersecurity manager or the CISO, but not necessarily. Mostly, if it's a very small organization and the CISO is kind of working like a director of cybersecurity, sort of, right? But he just has the title CISO, then he might probably be in charge of this. Or maybe there is nobody to head it, so the CISO will take it, or director of cybersecurity or some cybersecurity manager will take it, right? So the head doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who is specialized in GRC, but it has to be somebody with a very good working knowledge of GRC and cybersecurity in general. Right? And the lead most often is somebody who might not also necessarily have some technical knowledge, but they might be good managers or good leaders who can manage the team, right? But at least they should have some working knowledge of who is supposed to do what within there, or within the team, right? So the team comprises of people who work under governance, risks, and compliance, obviously, right? And individuals from the IT department, from cybersecurity or information security department, HR, from top management or the C-suite. So you might probably have, CISO, like I said, or somebody who is representing CISO, the director of cybersecurity, or somebody like that. Legal, from the legal team. So when it comes to the compliance side, legal plays a very good role, or a very critical role, right? Because aside just the cybersecurity frameworks or standards that the organization has to stay in compliance with, most often, if there are other laws that are not going to bother on information security, is legal who is going to catch all those, right? Most often with the cybersecurity side or information security side, like SOC and PCI and those, legal might know that they have to stay in compliance with it, but they don't really know what goes into those ones. So it is the technical people in the GRC team that will handle that. But like when it comes to maybe some laws and regulations that doesn't necessarily pertain to information security or IT, then legal will look at it. Now finance also forms a very they are also key players in GRC, because we have compliance on the finance side that the organization has to meet, right? And audits, if the organization is big enough and they have like an audit team, they are also key players in the GRC area, because they will help do internal audits before external assessors or auditors will come in, right? So people working within these areas, they can be part of the team. And now let's look at some of the areas under GRC, and this is not by any measure the entire list. This is just some of the areas that you can find yourself in under the GRC. So one of the biggest ones is third-party vendor risk management. So that is, there's going to be probably somebody, 2 or 3, or a little area under GRC, under the GRC team that will have like a third-party risk management people who are working on third-party risk management stuff. risk management in general and risks. There will be a risk analyst or somebody on those lines. Compliance and audits, there will be compliance and audit people. So as you can see here, people who are working on third-party risk management, they are not necessarily going to be working on compliance and audit areas like PCI-DSS, SOC 2, NIST, and any of those frameworks, right? These people will just focus on third-party risk management, doing like questionnaires and stuff, right? And people who are focusing on risks will be focusing on risks, not necessarily. Any people who are under the compliance and audit side, they are going to be the ones focusing on, whichever framework or whichever standard the organization has to stay in compliance with. Now, we also have the financial compliance, right? This was a bit biased on the information security side, but on the financial compliance side, it will focus on the financial compliance frameworks or standard that the company has to stay in compliance with, right? So an example is SOX with SOX, right? And cyber insurance. So cyber insurance is also, I think we can do like a whole session on that too. Is a really booming industry now, where organizations will, as part of the ways that we can mitigate risks, one way is to transfer risks, and one of the ways you transfer risks to a third party is through a cyber insurance, right? So cyber insurance also falls under GRC. So that is where legal and those people come in, right? So legal people will be working on the insurance aspect together with, maybe whoever they might deem fit for like whatever type of insurance that they are putting in place. Security control frameworks. Also, you have people who will be working, specifically in these areas. Cyber risk management. So the risk management that we looked at here, this is business risk management. So including cyber for the whole entire company, right? Now, when we say cyber risk management or information security risk management, we are specifically targeting risks associated with information security or IT, right? And then security and regulatory compliance, that also, some of these will also fall under that we are talking about in totality for the entire company, what they have to stay in compliance with in terms of regulations and security. Now, what are some of the job opportunities that are out there? Right? There is a whole list of job opportunities or job openings out there, right? Last time I checked, there were over 700,000 on-field cybersecurity jobs in the United States alone, right? Around the world, it was projected to be around 3.5 million by the end of 2021. Now, I don't really know, probably maybe 4.1 or something, right? So the demand for cybersecurity professionals is always going up. It's not coming down, and GRC is a critical part of cybersecurity. So guess what? Demand for cybersecurity, for GRC, people who want to work in the GRC is also high, because GRC plays a very key role in cybersecurity or information security. Now, some of the job titles that you can find within GRC include the following, but not by any means all of it. So cyber risk analyst, information security, information assurance specialist, compliance, cybersecurity compliance analyst, information security analyst, PCI, or they can even put like HIPAA or FESMA. So depending on what framework that they want you to be working on, they can put that on there. And generally, you can also find just information security analysts that you'll be working on the GRC side. Cybersecurity manager, they will also specify risk/compliance. GRC manager or GRC security risk specialist. There's a whole list of it, right? There is a whole list of it. So this is not by any means all of it. There is a whole list. Now, let's address the most important thing, probably for the whole entire job area of GRC, right? So what type of skill sets are employers looking for somebody that they want to work in the GRC area, right? There are two main skill sets that we look for in cybersecurity: your hard skills and your soft skills, right? Hard skills is what you will term as your technical knowledge or your technical skills, right? So how well do you know cybersecurity? How well, or what is your working knowledge in cybersecurity? That is your technical skill, right? Now, technical skills is easy to get, or it's easy to acquire, right? You can acquire technical skills within 2-3 months, and you can start working as a cybersecurity professional. The hardest part of this is the soft skills, and that is what most people don't even recognize, or some people don't even know that it exists, because they think IT is just, IT, you just focus on the technical aspect of IT. But that is a big no-no when it comes to GRC, not just GRC, information security in general, or cybersecurity in general. Soft skills include what? Communication skills, your interpersonal skills, leadership skills, managerial skills, presentation skills, right? Your influence skills. So all those skills that are subjective, right? They are hard to measure, right? And they are not easy to teach. Those are the ones that most often will bite people in the behind if they go to interviews like GRC interviews, because GRC jobs are very heavy on soft skills, right? Because guess what? You'll be working with, like everybody saw the list that that we went through in terms of people who come together to form the GRC team, right? And aside those people, you'll be working with different areas of the organization. You'll be working with assessors or auditors. You'll be working with, so they are looking for somebody who is a good team player, somebody who has a good attitude, somebody who can work independently, somebody who pay attention, or somebody who has good attention to detail skills, right? Somebody who has great interpersonal skills, somebody who can communicate well, right? So all those are things that we are looking for. Okay, please give me a minute. Yeah, so soft skills, I can't stress on it enough. It plays a very critical role. And if you want to really find out if this is true, you have an assignment for tonight or maybe probably tomorrow. Go to any of these job sites, Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, DICE, right? And search for any of the job titles that we listed there. So cybersecurity analyst, or just search for GRC cybersecurity jobs. When the jobs come, just, go down the list, just select the first one, look at the job descriptions, look at the job description, go down the list and look at the skills that they are looking for, or preferred skills, right? You see a lot of soft skills. So good communication skills, good interpersonal skills, attention to detail. You should be a self-starter. You should be able to work independently. You should be a good team player. You should be a whole list of it, right? Soft skills is needed in cybersecurity and information security, but it's needed more on the GRC side. Like if, let's say, in general, in cybersecurity, soft skills is needed maybe by percentage, like maybe 40 to 50, or maybe 30 to 40. When you narrow it down to GRC, soft skills, sometimes they are probably from 40 to 60, right? And your technical skills will be probably maybe 20, 30, or 40, right? Sometimes it's 50-50, depending on what organization or what job interview that you are going to. And mostly for people on here who've gone through the interviews, are working in cybersecurity, and I know a lot of people on here from our training and from either one or two of our classes are working, right, in the industry. They'll tell you during their interviews, mostly for cybersecurity interviews or GRC interviews, you go through at least 3 interviews, right? One might probably be warm and fuzzy with HR to see, who you are, if you're not crazy. The next one might be maybe your technical-ish interview, or your soft skills / technical interview. And then the next one, based on whether it is a GRC job or whatever other area that you want to, that you are trying to get into. So if it's a GRC job, you have at least 1 full soft skills interview. And that is what gets most people, right? So you are prepared with all this technical knowledge, and I'm going to speak to this and speak to that, and you go to the interview and they are like, okay, so John, if you are in a team and one of your team members is acting up, how are you going to handle it? That might throw you off if you didn't prepare for it, right? Or have you had conflicts with your boss before? Do you say yes or no? Right? Like, do you say yes or no? If yes, what was it? How did you handle it? If no, how long have you been working with your boss and you've never had a conflict? Okay, have you had a conflict with any of your co-workers? Now you are stuck. You don't know if you say yes, is it bad? Or if I say no, if I say yes, how do I explain or come up with scenarios to make me look good, right? And now you know that your interview is not going so well, right? And sometimes, like, there was, I think in one of our discussions, in one of the cyber chats, we had one student who was talking about, he went to an interview, right? The cybersecurity interview, and the lady was asking him why he moved from Texas to New Jersey and why he bought a house here, not there, why he did. So it sounded like a normal, just, getting to know you interview, right? What they didn't realize was that it was a soft skills interview, and the lady was picking his brain on his judge, how he, like he make decisions, like his decision-making skills and processes, his thought process, how he sees things, right? And the next day, the lady or like the hiring manager just got back to him and said, we are moving on with somebody else. And he was so, hurt. I mean, like, she didn't ask me any cybersecurity question. I'm like, no, she did. He just didn't know that all that, usual conversation that you're having was the cybersecurity questions that she was asking you, because it was cybersecurity questions on the soft skills side, right? So mostly if you have to interview with like CISO, CIO, your interview is not going to be, for them, they are looking at, most of them, they are looking at soft skills. So they will be trying to pick your brain on how you make decisions, why you did this and not that, how you handle conflict, and stuff like that, right? And if you don't prepare for any of those, if you want to go into the on the GRC side, please take a critical look at soft skills. For every interview, just prep yourself well, right? And make sure you are good on the soft skills side, okay? So that is for the skill sets that they are looking for. Hard skills, soft skills is general for cybersecurity and or information security. But when it comes to GRC, people on here can attest to it. When we are done and we open the floor, soft skills, critical when it comes to the GRC aspect, okay? So now we open the floor for question and answers. And also for our contacts, these are contacts on here. We will post it in the chat. And for our courses and training, we offer a PCI DSS training. We are almost done with the online version that will be open for open enrollment. But till now, we run live classes, and we are working on online version that you can do self-paced, right? And we have our cybersecurity entry-level course for anybody who is trying to get into cybersecurity. It takes you from where you are 0 to 100, 100 being where you can start working as a cybersecurity professional, right? It includes hands-on training, job placement assistance, and you also get 2 months of internship. And most of our interns are here, they can speak to it. It's really good training. Some of our interns even got jobs before the internship ended, so which is good, right? So we are going to open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, I think there were some questions in the chat. We will look at that here shortly and address those. So as I'm going through, please, if you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand and then we will address your question. So for, okay, Pat, okay, I think I know where to start. So Pat says, to your experience, how many of your PCI DSS graduates got hired? Do you have any data percentages of those who got jobs? So Pat, we just roll out our PCI DSS course. The first cohort has not even finished, right? So, but some are interviewing. I think like one came so close, but he did one of our previous courses and he's working not as a PCI DSS person, but most of our students who took the entry-level course who are working, they are the ones who came back to take the PCI DSS course. So for the PCI DSS, now at this point, we cannot give you any statistics But I can guarantee you that once the first cohort is done, even for those who are in it right now, we are going to encourage that when they get to a very good point, we will start having them applying for jobs and doing interviews, and they will, that way they are able to test their knowledge and their skill set so far, and then also see what is really going on the job market, and also to test that whatever they are learning is not just air, right? They are actually learning something that is needed by employers, right? So Pat, that is to your question, right? Now let's go to Kweku. Oh, okay. So Kweku says it seems the processes are closely related. That is not necessarily a question. So, Kweku is asking, are you expected to know all the frameworks or concentrate on one or two? So, Kweku, depending on the job, right? Some jobs will require you to, if you're applying like specifically for PCI DSS jobs, right? Then you have to know PCI DSS. Some GRC jobs will need you to have a working knowledge of almost all of it, right? So PCI, HIPAA, and mostly how you'll be able to gauge that is whatever they have in their job description, that is what you might probably encounter, right? So you don't necessarily have to have be an expert in all of the frameworks, which you cannot be, right? I don't know how many years that is going to take you, but you cannot be an expert in all of it. You can master one or two and have a working knowledge of the rest. Even if you don't, now you know just general cybersecurity, you can still have a working knowledge of it, because if they bring you on board, they might probably have you, work with somebody else on it. But if the job specifically focuses on, hey, you are going to be our SOC audit person, or like you are going to be our SOC person who is going to help us with SOC audits, or you are going to be the PCI DSS girl or guy, or you are going to be the HIPAA girl or guy, then it behooves you to know HIPAA inside and out, or to know PCI DSS inside and out. But if it's just like a general thing that they throw in there, like, hey, we expect you to have a working knowledge of PCI DSS, maybe CCPA, HIPAA, and I mean, then you just have to have a working knowledge of it, right? But if you have to specifically, if they are stating specifically that is like your job title is a PCI lead, then obviously you have to know PCI. So I hope that answers your question. Michael, go ahead. Michael has his hand
up. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Doctor, you said something very briefly. You talked about when you're applying for a GRC job, that 70% of them are primarily going to be based on the soft skills and 30% on the hard skills. So looking at GRC, so is it primarily based on improving on those frameworks? Is that what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day on the job, improving those frameworks, rewriting those frameworks, depending on the industry?
Okay, good question, Michael. So like what I said was just gauging the percentage, right? Depending on the organization. It can be a GRC job, but then the technical side will be like 60%, and the soft skill side will be like 40, right? So it kind of varies, but with GRC, mostly on average, let's say on average, your soft skills will be almost about 40% always, right? Okay. So it's not necessarily going to be 70-30. Okay. Always being, very moderate, the soft skill side is going to be about 40%, right? So this is an example, and also based on like the position and the company, right? That will really determine how much you are going to be doing with soft skills, or like which technical area they are looking at, right? So this is an example that I picked up right before we started this. So this is a typical GRC job, right? This is a GRC security risk specialist for a company, Request Technology LLC, based in Chicago, right? Pay, mostly like this pay is an estimate. Maybe sometimes it's right, but mostly it's an estimate. And it's a full-time position, no travel required. So job description, we are just going to do a quick, job placement here, job placement as assistance training. So mostly you go down this list. The most important thing to do is this first portion will give you, they will give you a brief or an overview of what the company does, right? And also you are going to pick up on what is required of you in the job before you even come to the responsibilities. So on here, it says that the candidate will work okay, let me just highlight that real quick. Where does it end? Right here. Okay, so candidate will work on the governance risk compliance team, lead and execute. So keyword here, everybody pay attention, lead and execute. So some leadership skills will be required, managerial skills will be required, interpersonal skills, right? So lead and execute the program within the GRC team. So you are going to be leading the GRC team pretty much, right? You have to be a subject matter expert for information security. So including consulting, so technical and non-technical. So you'll be consulting to technical and non-technical management and the user community, okay, and perform key risk management functions within the security governance department, right? So this is more of a leadership managerial role, but you still have to have a good working knowledge in terms of security in general, right? So you are going to be leading this team. So you are not going to be the one necessarily doing everything within here, but you have to be the one overseeing and making sure they are doing everything right. And how are you going to oversee somebody and make sure they are doing everything right if you don't know what right looks like? And your primary functions include lifecycle management of clients response, policy and standard lifecycle management. So, I mean, these, if you don't know these, I mean, probably you can just talk to somebody who knows about it. Policy, what this simply means is, you know, like policies within the organization, they have to be reviewed. Mostly under PCI-QSA, policies have to be reviewed every year, and you have to show evidence that it was done for you to pass the requirement that pertains to that, right? And lifecycle management, so mostly with your assets, the ones that have reached their end of life, you have to have a plan on how you are going to, you know, take them off your assets list and replace them with, you know, new ones. Security vendor risk program, so third-party risk management is also going to be your baby. Security awareness, so you're going to be conducting security awareness training, control assurance, GRC platforms or GRC tools that they'll be using, program management. So you'll be overseeing. So the first portion gives you a very good idea of what you're going to be doing, right? And I can tell you for a fact, just by looking at the first portion, the lead portion, and what you are going to be doing without even looking at anything here, this is probably going to be like 70%-ish soft skills, right? So if you fail this interview and you are very good technically, it's not going to be your technical skills that is going to fail you. It's your soft skills, lack of soft skills, knowledge, right, or experience. That is going to not let you pass this one. So responsibilities, I mean, we can go down the list, but generally whatever they said on the top portion is what they are expanding on down here, right? So I can just pick up some keywords here: lead, right? Manage, lead, and management. So I'll just picking up on these, right? You are going to serve as a subject matter expert, so you're going to be doing kind of like a consulting, like you'll be serving in a consulting role as well, right? And that borders on your communication skills and presentation skills, how you are able to break down complex cybersecurity concepts into simple everyday language, right? And qualifications, go down that. So my advice to everybody, mostly this is not set in stone. So don't get carried away by, oh, but I don't have 5 years of experience, or I don't have a degree in whatever. Forget it. Just apply for it if you want it. And I can assure you, if you have a good resume, you're probably going to get an interview, right? So if you get an interview, that shows you that they are not looking at none of these, right? It's what you're going to say on the interview that is going to really make you or unmake you. Now, you can also pick some cues from here. They want you to have a strong knowledge on security frameworks, right? And technologies such as, so these are frameworks, not technologies. ISO 27001, that is ISMS, NIST, SOC, SYNC, and others, right? So the ones that they will mention is probably what they are using, right? So that is the trick there, right? And they said strong knowledge. So, but people will tell you, oh, but I didn't have the experience. What is experience? If you don't have the knowledge, forget about experience, because you can work on the job for 15 years and you still not know anything about ISO 27001. You have to actively learn it, right, to acquire the knowledge. And then when you apply it, then now you are building your skills. And then you can say you have experience, right? So during interviews, most often they are just testing your knowledge base, right? If you've done it before and previously or in your other job, it makes it easy. If you've not done it and you know it really well, that you can articulate it, and when it comes to let's use it, you can use it, you should be good, right? Now let's look at some of the soft skills areas that I was talking about. So I think almost about all of this. Oh, about yeah, like, okay, forget about the knowledge part. Strong. But if you take time, I'll probably post the link to this also. If you take time to read it, they want somebody with what strong analytical abilities with excellent written and verbal communication skills required, strong reading comprehension skills required, strong project and time management skills required, strong organization and problem solving skills required, communicates succinctly and effectively, demonstrate ability to communicate effectively, technical topics at an appropriate level of detail to various or varied audience, right? That is also a soft skill. Being able to break complex technical stuff down to, you know, a very, like to the level of whoever you're talking to, right? So it's like explaining math to a 2-year-old, and or explaining like addition to a 2-year-old as to explaining addition to somebody who is doing, you know, like a first degree in maths, right? If you are a math professor, right? So ability to independently complete assignments, ability to facilitate and lead projects, ability to perform as primary subject matter expert, maintain accurate records. And so this list, I'm just eyeballing this and list, like, you know, saying these are the soft skills. There, it is more than that. So this is the entire qualifications or what they are looking for. And more than 90%, maybe probably 70%, you know, if I'm not exaggerating, touches on soft skills, right? And I could tell just from the top portion here exactly what they are going to let you do. You are going to lead and execute a program. Right? So I'm going to post this also in there. So let's look at some questions here. Pat, I'll tackle yours first because yours came up first. Pat says, is asking on daily basis, what does an ISO do? I understand he does reports on reports such as ROC, validation, etc. On quarterly or 6 months and yearly. How the work environment? How is the work environment on daily basis and responsive? Okay, so Pat, your ISO is not necessarily going to be the one. ROC and AOC is done by a QSA, because your ROC, an ISO can do this if they are doing it internally for the company to see where they are. But for you to present this to your acquirer or to the card brands, or for your QSA to submit this to PCI, it has to be a QSA who is doing it, right? An ISO, if not ISO, ISA within an organization, that is an internal security assessor, a QSA internal security assessor, right? What that person does is they ensure, or they are probably going to be the one in charge of the PCI program within the company, and they work on daily basis to ensure that they are continuously staying in compliance with PCI DSS from the last time they passed their audit. They are going to be the liaison between the company and the QSA when it is time for an audit, right? So they're going to be working hand in hand with the QSA to help the company pass the audit. So they are going to be the ones identifying who has to provide what evidence, and also, try to streamline the whole process and make it very simple and easy for the company and also for the QSA. So the ISA might also be very instrumental in, coming up with a scope for the organization, and a whole list of other stuff that they can do, right? So I think that probably answers most of your question, right? So Venkata is asking how much it costs for your GRC training. Oh, so mostly when you say GRC training, that is very broad. There's nothing like a one GRC training. So if it is a training on FESMA, HIPAA, RMF, all of them are GRC training, right? For us, the training that we have is PCI DSS, right? PCI DSS training. So be honest. Okay, Michael is saying, be honest on your resume, be creative with tailoring your resume to job. Yes. So Michael, don't like Michael is saying, right? Don't say you use you used to teach at MIT if you've never taught at MIT, right? So mostly with resume, there is ways around it that you don't necessarily have to lie, and you'll be able to also make yourself look good, because all that you are doing is to make yourself look good, also to present stuff that you've done in the light that whoever is looking at it will know or will see that you are a potential candidate to be able to do the job they are looking for you to do, right? Because everybody has a whole variety of skill sets, but you have to tailor your skill sets to whatever the job is looking for. Okay, so if I've been a nurse before, I've been a pilot, right? I was probably like a company commander in the Army. I was, I've done maybe 20 different things. If I'm applying for a nurse job, I'm not going to write my pilot experience on there, right? If any of my pilot experience borders on the nurse job, example, some transferable skills, mostly soft skills. As a pilot, you have to have a lot of patience, attention to detail. You still need attention to detail as a nurse, right? So I can list those, and I didn't lie, but I'm not going to say on the nursing application that, oh, I was a pilot here and I did this. No, as a pilot, what other duties did you do, right? If you were like the lead for your whole entire crew, you were a manager or you were a leader, you can put that instead of I was a pilot, right? So if you put a manager or a leader, then you list whatever skill sets that is transferable to whatever you're trying to do. You list that instead, okay? So you are not lying, but you are just, trying to bring out what is necessary for what you're applying for, right? So, but just straight up lies is not going to get you anywhere, right? So, okay, so for our PCI DSS training, we have our specialist course is 3,500. Our expert course is 6,500, right? And specialist is 3 months with a month of internship. Expert is 4 months with 2 months of internship. So Kwabena is asking, if you have not worked in IT industry before, how do you design your resume to enable you to get a job, since most require 5 years of experience? So yeah, Kwabena, good point, right? Now, the years of experience for most, it's funny you brought this up, because this is like, I think I was in a forum and this was brought up, right? A forum of like cybersecurity industry players, and they were all complaining about, cybersecurity, they need people, right? Or, like we need people in cybersecurity. There are a lot of job openings that have to be filled, right? But the problem you're running into is HR. For most companies, they are not on the same page, or they don't know what they are really doing. Not to take anything away from HR, but it's funny, you will see a job posting, right? that says this is an entry-level position. And as part of the qualifications, they'll put in there, you need 5 years of experience. 5 years of experience is not an entry-level position, right? In every industry, 5 years of experience is intermediate level position, right? But then they will state, and then they will put, so all those are mistakes. That is why, like, disregard any job that is from 0 to 5 years of experience, disregard it, apply for it if you want it. If it is 10 years and up, don't apply for it because that is way above your league, right? You can't do that because at that point, you know, if you go to those interviews, you see yourself. They need something like somebody who has been, you know, at least who's been doing this for at least more than 5 years, right? So if it is 0 to 5 years or 6 years, apply for it, right? Because mostly what HR and what most of these people do is, most of the job descriptions is copy and paste. Whoever is in HR, they are not necessarily IT people, right? So they will just, if they tell them, hey, we need somebody to fill director of cybersecurity role, guess what they will do? Go online, find job descriptions for director of cybersecurity, copy and paste it in theirs. Probably that is asking for like 18 years of experience, but really what they are looking for is probably like maybe 4 years or maybe 6 years or 10 years of experience, right? But mostly they do copy and paste. So for the resume, how to design it and how to go about it, for our students, we have ways around it that we are able to, you know, make it not to say you did something you didn't do, but based on the skills and knowledge that you gain from us, we'll be able to package you and market you in a way that is going to help you land your first cybersecurity job. So on daily, okay, I think I read parts already. Okay, so okay, Harrison was asking same thing, similar thing to Pabna. If you don't have any working experience after the training, how do you get a job? Yes, we have ways around it, and plus you do internship with us, so we have how we are going to package you and, you know, push you out there. So mostly, but what I'm saying is for everybody else, you don't necessarily even have to come through our training if you don't want to, or you have some training elsewhere. Apply for the jobs, right? If not for anything, for the interviewing skills, right? And just to test the waters to see what is going on, right? And doing interviews it is also going to help you to really gauge or do an assessment on what you are learning so far, depending on wherever you're taking your training, right? If you go to interviews and you did well, you know. If you did really terrible, you know, right? So if you are taking a training elsewhere or anywhere, even with us, you know, if you are halfway and you know enough, we will encourage you, or we will challenge you to start interviewing. You will see, or you'll be able to gauge whether what you are learning and the skills you are gaining is really what employers are looking for. If that is not what employers are looking for, then what are you doing, right? You are just wasting your time, right? So forget about the years of experience. Mostly, if it is not anything, if you are very new and the job you're applying for is not asking, hey, you have to have 8 years plus of experience, those jobs, don't even worry yourself. Don't apply for it. If it's anything between 0 to 5 years, you have my blessing. Apply for it, right? Apply for, if not for anything, just for the interviewing skills and also to gauge what you know so far, right? And you'll be able to pick up on some of the questions and how to answer it. And it's also going to boost your confidence, right? Yeah, Fred says it's easy to teach hard skills or tech skills than soft skills. Yeah, Fred, with soft skills, I mean, I can teach you to become a PCI DSS expert in like maybe less than 6 months, right? With hands-on training and everything. But for me to teach you to become a very good manager, that is gonna take more than years, right? And even that, to measure you whether you know it or you don't, or like now you are at the level that I want you to be, that is very subjective. So that is how and why soft skills are, you know, really hard to gauge, right? Okay, so I think I went through all the questions on here. Please, if there are any more, just let me know. And if you want to ask a question, you can raise your virtual hand and we will answer it before we wrap it up. Part is asking what kind of practical internship PCI-DSS and what companies they do the internship with. Okay, so Part, what type of practical internship we do? I don't really know how you want, I mean, like what kind of practical internship do you know? Because like, I don't really know what exactly you are looking, because what they do, like what I can say is, what they do is exactly what you do on the job, right? As an implementer, that is what you're going to be doing on the job. As an expert, you are going to be working you can work in an audit company. So you'll be working or doing similar things you'll be doing on the job is what we do for the internship, right? Now, what companies you are going to be paired with, that will depend on which cohort you are in the class. Okay. So I hope that answers your question, right? Kweku, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hello. I want to ask about a certification. Let's say you go through the program, you've acquired all the necessary skills, but you don't have any certification to validate it. How is it going to affect your chances of getting a job?
So in cybersecurity, one thing that most people get wrong is that they think you need a certification or certifications before you can land a cybersecurity job. You don't need a certification, right? And there is Michael, your boy is here. Michael just got a job last week or last 2 weeks. Michael, if you can speak to this, what certification do you have? Michael just completed our entry-level course. He has not even written Security Plus. He got a job.
I see.
You don't need a certification. Mostly, it is what you are going to say during interviews or how you are able to present yourself, right? Certifications are good. They will make you, first off, if you studied and you passed it on your own merit and you just didn't memorize questions and you didn't know what was going on the test, but you still passed, certifications are going to boost your confidence. Two, in the process of you preparing for the certifications, you'll be learning more, acquiring more knowledge and skill, right? And if it comes to, like, if you go head to head with somebody during an interview, certification is going to help you to, that is going to be the edge over the other person, right? But you don't necessarily need certifications to get a job. You can get it. Most people in our course, some will get a job before they even think about going to write any certification, right? So you don't necessarily need certifications. If anybody tells you you need a certification in cybersecurity before you can get a job, it's a big lie.
Okay, because I was asking this because I have last year I wrote the Security Plus and the CCNA, but ultimately I wanted to do cybersecurity. But my younger brother, who moved to the US a long time ago, was like, "Hey, you are coming from a non-technical background, so I would advise that you start from like the scratch." So that was what I did last year. And currently I'm working as IT support. Seriously, I'm not a technical person. Back home in Ghana, I'll pay somebody to fix my bulb for me. So you understand what I'm talking about. So I know myself, I'm not that technical person. I'm working as IT support with a broadband company. I'm learning a lot, but I'm not enjoying the job. That's not me. So I really wanted to, but they were telling me, hey, you need CISA, CISM before. And I'm like, what I have now is Security Plus and CCNA.
So if we are just talking in terms of security certification, that should be enough to get you a job, right? There are people who have people are stacking up certifications and they are not working anywhere. Or even during interviews, like they will be asked kindergarten cybersecurity, like cybersecurity kindergarten questions, and they'll be fumbling because they really have not taken the time to like hone on their skill. All they want is just pass certifications. I think everybody on here, if we give you some practice tests and test questions for medicals, like the doctor's exam or like the state board for either law or for medical. I think if you have enough time to study and memorize it, you pass. But are you a lawyer or are you a doctor?
That's a good one.
right? So you pass it all day and have the certification and put it in your room and be happy about it. I passed, but on the job, you know, what are you going to do as a medical doctor?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
If it's just certification, then what you have is enough. Don't be chasing certifications. Chase the knowledge.
So, are you saying it is enough to get me a job in government risk, governance risk and compliance?
Yes. So, like I said, you don't need a certification in anything to get any job in cybersecurity. What you have, if you are just talking in terms of certification, it should be enough for you to get a job in GRC.
Oh, okay.
The other area of cybersecurity.
Oh, okay.
Harrison, please go ahead.
Yeah, the internship you're talking about is going to be remotely as well.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then someone in the group chat asked a question about a DSS internship. Can you get that? Can I do that with you without taking your class, or I have to take your class before?
No, so with yes, hopefully, I think, like, you have another question or like that, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. So with mostly with our internships for either our general cybersecurity courses or for PCI, we would like to gauge your level of knowledge and skill first. Because if you are especially for PCI DSS, you are coming in thinking you know something, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And I don't know what you know, and I don't know what you don't know, right? So if I just jump you straight into internship, and like with the internship, is like you are hitting the highway doing 90. There are no bicycles, there are no, oh, let me just do 30, and when I catch up, you know, on speed, and then no, you are just hitting it running. So we don't want you to kind of drag us back. We don't also want to be dragging you back. So, you know, it's kind of like a mutual thing. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to waste our time, right? So I think for people who are interested in just the like the internship and for our internship is more of an apprenticeship than internship, because we will teach you what you're going to be working on, and then you go do it, right, with your team. And then we'll do an assessment. And if it's good, we move on to another project, right? So we are almost done with the kind of like the assessment that we are going to give anybody who wants to do just the apprenticeship / internship part of PCI DSS without taking the training. We are going to give an assessment. If you pass the assessment, then we can consider you in the internship program, right? If you don't pass, then like the assessment is not going to be anything that you can find online or anywhere. It's going to be based on what you know and your skill set, right? So we are almost done with it, wrapping it up. Hopefully the link will be sent out to be posted on our various platforms. So if you're interested, you can try your hands on it. If you pass, then we will probably, you know, talk to you and also see where you are at in terms of just talking to you and gauging you, because we know, you know, what also happens on the backside, right? So the assessments, yes, we are going to roll it out. So we are working on that to help people who just, you know, think they need hands-on training on the PCI side without necessarily going through the training. So I hope that answers your question, Harrison.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, you are welcome. ABK, please go ahead.
Yeah, Doc, that's me, Mama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, Doc, thank you for the presentation. So, Doc said someone coming from a help desk, going to GRC, being a governance position, will you advise that person to go into that role, being it that they have to be making, you know, corporate decision versus just, you know, little technical decision as far as how to route things or solve little technical issues, based on, I think, the job descriptions that you had earlier. Looks like that person has to be knowledgeable in decision making, as far as, you know, talking with other people outside. And second question to tie into that, so being in the being a GRC in a company that outsources most of their their technical work or their their technical functions, would you say that what would the duties be to be a liaison with that company and the third party, or would they then have to be the one to actually create those different technical compliance policies that you spoke about?
Okay, so if I get your question right, you asked two questions, right? The first
Yes.
one is for somebody working in support, tech support, is it advisable to jump into GRC and onto the governance side? And the second one was as a consultant, like what are you going to be doing for your company? Is that the second one?
Right, right. You sum it up right.
Okay, okay. So for the first one, if you are working in, like let's say you don't even have like any IT background, right? And you want to get into the GRC side, it's advisable not to take a role like the one we just looked at, right? You are going to be in charge of the GRC program. You don't want to do that, right? You want to be part of the GRC team, not the one leading the team, right? So you have to, I mean, you have to be ambitious, but you have to know your limit, right? There is a fine line between being ambitious and insanity, right? So you have to determine that on your own, right? So if you think you have enough leadership and managerial skill that we can pick you from Apple as a CEO and place you at Coca-Cola and you still be able to function, then you can apply for that job. Because if you are the CEO of Mercedes, group of companies, and we move you to McDonald's, then you still, kicking, behind, like people's behind, then, and you are, like achieving or overachieving, then it means you have a skill set that really crosses over different industries. So you can, with that skill set, you can jump into cybersecurity and be head of anything, and you still be able to function. Mostly, so also to add to that, most of the information security or IT folks on the C-suite, most of them, they don't know any technical stuff, zero. It's just their managerial and leadership skills, right? So your CIO might not know any cybersecurity. CISO, you have to know cybersecurity to a certain point, but some companies, CISO still don't know any cybersecurity. So if you want to get into GRC, gauge yourself in terms of your knowledge and skill, and also like the jobs are there. If you read it and you think, I cannot do this, or you don't want to just jump yourself to become a leader in like a role that you've never been in, or like in a team that you've never played in, then you might have to take something lower, like maybe GRC specialist, that you're going to be part of the team. So you are learning and also, contributing your part to the company. Right? So it's just a matter of knowing what jobs to choose and which ones not to choose. Right? Just like how we tell most of our students, the fact that you've done with the training doesn't mean you qualify for all cybersecurity jobs. You do, but you don't, right? So depending on whatever they are looking for in terms of years, in terms of exactly what they want you to be doing, because sometimes, mostly frankly, this will be like a big shocker to everybody. I won't say 90, maybe probably 70 to 80% of the time, job titles really don't mean anything. They just have to put something on there because that is part of how they have to advertise for the job. But reason why I'm saying that is somebody who is working as, let's say, just still sticking to GRC, right? Somebody working as a GRC specialist in company A might be doing something totally different from somebody working as a GRC specialist in company B, right? The person in company B, what they might be doing might be a job of a cybersecurity engineer, but then the job title that brought them into the company was GRC specialist, right? So that is why mostly, if you don't have a good working knowledge of cybersecurity, it is hard. You are going to be a walking heart attack because you thought you were going in to be the third-party risk management lady. And then next, they throw you in there, you are doing cybersecurity, you are doing like cybersecurity engineer stuff and you have no clue what is going on. That they see you as a cybersecurity professional, so you should be able to work in any area, right? So with the job titles, just take it as it is, take it for what it is for, right? But if you read a job description and everything there and you think you are comfortable, maybe probably with 40 to 50% apply for it, because you're not necessarily going to do everything that is listed there. But you just have to, it's just a matter of you gauging yourself and, you know, being able to identify that, okay, that would be good for me, that wouldn't be good for me. So, Alma, I hope that. And your second question, so as a consultant in a company, if you are working as a consultant, you'll be a liaison between whoever the clients of the company are. So you'll be working with, you know, other parties or third parties outside the company, right? So when it comes to exactly what you will be doing, sometimes you can be in an advisory role, or sometimes you also, you know, have to jump into the ditch and be digging, right? So digging meaning that you have to be doing, right? So if they are configuring some new SIM tool that they purchase, you're going to be the guy or the girl doing it. Mostly for the advisory role, you wouldn't be doing any digging, or sometimes it's going to be a combination, right? With advisory role, you'll be advising them on, you know, best security practices and whatnot, right? So I hope that answers your question. Kingsley, please go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doc.
Oh yeah, Doc, I was going to ask about the internship and the apprenticeship program. Are we taking the assessment to, this is just for people coming in from outside?
Kingsley, are you talking about the PCI-DSS one or?
Yes.
Okay, because I know
PCI-DSS one.
You've done the entry level one. So
yes,
but you are in the PCI-DSS course. So
yes, I am.
Okay, so for you don't have to take any assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Lomen, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Hey, Dr. Duke, I just wanted to support your statement that you say now about the GRC, like, you know, you need to know security. Before I start taking your classes, I was doing a SAP Cybersecurity and audit and a GRC. So what I've learned is if you don't understand the security side of it, you cannot do the GRC. There is no way, like you cannot configure the GRC GUI, like you will not be able to do it. There is no way you're gonna do it. So I just want to tell everyone that please be patient. You know, just take the entry-level cybersecurity course. You will understand everything. You will love it. Then you get into the GRC, and it will be easy for you. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lumen. But like everybody can see, Lumen is probably the biggest fan of the entry-level course, right? So, but yeah, to add to what he was saying, most people think the GRC area is the non-technical area of cybersecurity. It is not true, right? If you don't have a good working knowledge of all the areas of cybersecurity, doing anything in GRC, you'll be kind of handicapped, right? Most especially when it comes to the frameworks, people think, oh, you know, somebody will tell you, hey, to get into PCI-DSS, you don't need any technical knowledge. It is not true. Because if I tell you to implement a multi-factor authentication, what is a multi-factor authentication in the first place? How do you implement it? How do you implement that on any system, right? Like what systems do you know, right? How do you, if there is a pen test report, how do you read it? If I do a vulnerability scan and there are a list of services, a list of ports, a list of like protocols, and some ports are open, how do you know which ports are vulnerable, which ones are not? So if you are an implementer, you are working in a company, you are part of the PCI-DSS team, or you are the lead, how are you going to help your company to pass your PCI-DSS audits if you don't know like simple things like which ports are vulnerable, so they need to be closed, right? So, and you don't have to be an expert in all areas of cybersecurity to be able to work in GRC. Right? Make sure you have a good working knowledge of all the different areas. So networking, cryptography, identity and access management, right? If anybody tells you GRC is just you read and you apply, you read. Yes, you can read it all right. I mean, I can read Chinese, but do I understand it? That is a different case. I can read French. Do I understand what I'm reading? You know, like that's a different subject matter, on its own, right? When you hear two doctors talking back and forth, they are speaking English, but 9 out of 10, you are not going to hear 90% of what they are talking about, right? If they are discussing health or they are discussing some case, right? So what I'm trying to get at is don't get in that notion that is the non-technical part of cybersecurity. So, you're just going to read and implement and apply stuff. You can't apply or you can't do an internal assessment if you don't understand what you are doing, right? And a typical example is what I just gave, right? Your company just underwent a penetration testing. This is the pen test report. They gave it to you. You're part of GRC. Hey, how do we start, doing like remediation actions? And you're looking at like the report looks like Greek to you. You have no clue what it is, where to start from, what to analyze. Right? So, but if you have some good working knowledge, at least when you start reading, okay, you know what this is, you know what that is. Oh, this, I mean, why is this? Why was this open? Why shouldn't we do this? So, now you know what to do to help your company to stay secure. And if it has to do with any of the like compliance frameworks, you should be good on that side as well, because everything covers everything, right? So there is no area that is like easy peasy, freebie. You have to have some working knowledge, right? So that is what Lumen was probably alluding to. Go ahead, Michael. And we are going to wrap it up once Michael is done, if there are no more questions. Michael, please go ahead. Your hands is up. You are muted. Okay. Is it me or can you hear Michael if he's speaking? I can't hear you, Michael.
No, we cannot.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So good evening, everybody. So yeah, I just wanted to confirm, whatever Dr. Du just said. And basically, I just, landed my first cybersecurity job. I actually start this coming Wednesday. And like most people, I joined with no prior experience, any background IT, no IT experience. And I joined in April this year, and we are in September, and I just landed my first job. So basically, I entered the entry level course, got through the entry level, and then joined the internship course. So basically, with no prior IT and no certification. So as Dr. Edu said earlier, I mean, it's doable. I came from a healthcare background. I didn't have no IT experience and no IT background. So, coming from healthcare, the transition wasn't that easy, but then, just put in the work. So I just want to encourage anybody who is thinking about, joining the course, go ahead and do it. Because if you don't do it, you're missing out a lot. So I did it, and it worked for me. And as I just said, I just landed my first job, and actually going to start this coming Wednesday. It's fully remote, and it's a GRC position. So, basically working on your own schedule, and then you get to work from home. So if I didn't take this chance, I wouldn't probably be where I am right now. So it's doable. So came from a healthcare background, got into cybersecurity with no experience. 5 months down the road, and I got my first cybersecurity job. So yes, I just want to encourage everybody, take it serious. If you're thinking about it, go ahead, enroll in the entry level course, and you won't regret it. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Michael. And I don't remember who was asking, but if you need certification for a GRC job, Michael has not even taken Security Plus yet, right? But he got a GRC job based on what he knows in terms of knowledge and skill, right? He went through entry-level course. Then he's currently in the internship. The internship is, I think tomorrow is the last meeting for the internship for the interns, and we'll call it, an internship session, right? It was supposed to be 2 months. I think it took a little bit more over 2 months, but I'm a big believer in getting the knowledge and the skill that is going to get you the job you're looking for, not just a bunch of certifications. Certifications are good, don't get me wrong. I have a whole bunch of it, but don't chase certifications, chase the knowledge and the skill, and you should be good to go. Nat, please go ahead and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Doc, it's been a great presentation. I just wanted to ask, when is the next class starting, the entry level?
Okay, so the entry level is open enrollment, so you can start at any time. Is the internship side or the apprenticeship side, that is live session, so that is when we determine when to start. But with entry level, it's self-paced. We've designed it that way to fit everybody's work schedule, right? So you have the online video lessons with lesson notes, and then you also get one-on-one assistance if you need any help. So if you need us to take you through a whole lesson, we can do that. If it's a quick question, you are mostly people will be a little bit stuck on the hands-on portion. So, oh, I was downloading, this is not downloading. All those parts we can take you through, right? But in terms of the content, we don't control when you study, but we encourage you to study at least 2 to 3 hours, or maybe an hour to 3 hours a day. So because of that, you can control how long it's going to take you to finish, right? It takes some people on average 3 months. Some people can do it within 2.5 months. Others will do it maybe 4 months and then get into the internship. So whilst you're in the internship, you can still be applying for jobs. Most people start applying for jobs maybe sometimes after the internship, but others who do actively apply during the internship, they get jobs. And we even had students who got jobs before they came into the internship. So that is how that is set up. So with the entry level, it's an open enrollment. You can start at any time. All right, Michael, is your hand still up, or that was from the previous?
That was the previous one.
Okay. Okay, everybody, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much. Friday night, you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here to, improve yourself and also to add to the family. We really appreciate your time. And I think there is one last question, and then we will call it a night. Okay, yes, a friend said he will send me an email. Okay, so we will talk offline on that one. But I appreciate everybody's time. Please, on our YouTube, check us on YouTube. We just post all these cyber chats on there. So if you are new, you can go on there and get some more of the cyber chat, previous ones that we've had before, and then you can also subscribe to it. So whenever we post new stuff, you'll be able to have access to it. Okay. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much. We'll meet again next week, same time. Have a blessed weekend.
Good night, Doc.